If you're I'm going to resume recording now. I'd like to welcome you and to our identify as being. But before we get into that, I just want to have the briefest expression of the second great invocation. As you know, in the ongoing struggle for power, which is basically the good guys and the bad guys, and it's a story of the angel of the presence and the dweller on the threshold. The dweller tries to disenfranchise millions of people, meaning steal their votes. This is happening in the US, but it could happen anywhere. Take their votes away through subtle forms of voter suppression, curtailing early voting, curtailing drop boxes, curtailing voting on weekends, shortening the time of voting, all the things that are meant to cut into people that are not the white people, the black people, the brown people, or the Oriental people, all the people who have every right to have their vote counted because of many demographical issues. These methods, however subtle they may be, are methods of voter suppression. So we're going to be working, the vote doesn't come up, of course, for another year and a half or more. But already these laws are going into place and they'll be very hard to move. And the question of reforming the so-called filibuster is before the public and before Congress. And basically what that means is for substantive legislation, you need 60 votes in the Senate and not 50, and people don't even have to talk in terms of what you call filibustering. It used to be that you would talk and talk and talk, and now they've gotten rid of that. At least that would put some strain on the attempt undemocratically to block that which the people want. So basically, we're going to be working over this period and towards the election on finding esoteric methods to make sure that people are not disenfranchised and they do not lose their vote. America is not for white people only, and more than that, white Christian people, and more than that, white Christian men. It's not that. So we have to bear that in mind, because a big vote steal is on the way in a number of the swing states to guarantee that the Congress and the Senate will be taken over by the materialistic side. That's all I can call it. So you have a little background there. And with that in mind, basically the idea that we ensure in our own internal way that every voter of eligible age and eligible status has a vote that is counted and are not closed out on technicalities. It's a very serious issue, very serious. And we're going to use Great Invocation number 2, as usual, to try to deal with that, with the power-hungry, materialistic, anti-democratic, Black Lodge-sponsored, materialistically sponsored powers that be.
Michael?
Yeah.
I just wanted to let you know that Jesse has said that 43 states are passing various voter suppression laws.
Yeah, this is very dangerous. Yeah.
We need to allow the will of voters to be manifest.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it, of course. That's.
And then Michael asked, where is the link to these laws? Do you have the text of them?
Okay, I'm not, I can't tell you. Okay. But, you know, that's what's going on. The Republican forces are moving back to Jim Crow, where, you know, after the Civil War was won by the North, they still found a way to disenfranchise the Black people. And now it's wider even. So anybody whose color is not white and who's, and moreover, you know, it's especially the men, they are put at a disadvantage. But this is not, you know, this is not our theme for tonight. It's just something we're going to take up as we go along. So with those things in mind, we go into Great Invocation number 2, you know, liberating us from these unfair laws. Let the lords of liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of men. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming save. Come forth, O mighty one. Let the souls of men awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of woe has come. Come forth, O mighty one. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O mighty one. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O mighty one, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. Oh. So friends, Tuya and I will keep working on this and enlist the help of all the people in the communications group. And we'll work hard to esoterically, and of course, we're not alone out in the outer world. There's a lot of people who see the danger and they're working on it. But this is, I can't even call it a shenanigan. It's much worse. It's this is theft, anti-democratic theft. So we're going to work on that, and Tuya and I will decide, you know, how often and when we can do that. But that's the issue of the hour. There may be other issues that come up, but this is the one that can direct the United States and by extension other countries into anti-democratic processes, and that's not the will of hierarchy. So we'll do our best, and we'll continue. Yeah, Jim Crow redux is really what it is, all over again. And, there's just so much prejudice. And as I've often been saying, it's not, how we look, and it's not our skin color. It's the causal body behind the outer form that determines the caliber of the human being. Yeah, there's a whole range of experience, and there are people who are still wandering around in the hall of ignorance. Okay, that's just a fact. We're in the hall of learning. Nevertheless, we have to deal with the real human being, and that's the causal body as reflected in the etheric body. That's what that's all about. And we have to find out the way. Now, look, tomorrow morning, we have Glamour at 6 a.m., right? So we're going to get more directly into this particular type of glamour, which is just kind of devotion to power, regardless of what it means for the welfare of others. So we're going to get into that, and we'll take it up at that point. All right. So I want to welcome you here. Glad you're here. With Michael and BL helping us here in the support role to keep us on track. And welcome to Anne and Annette and Astra and Brenda and Catherine rather, Francois and Georgina and Heike and Jesse and Joan and Lorianne and Martine and Mary, excuse me, my pronunciation there, and Nesa, welcome, and Risto and Thomas, Tia, Vicky, and Vivian. Okay. Now, friends, I'm going to go deep today in this lecture. These are lecture meditations. You know how I try to do it. It's a combination. And my screen sharing is paused, and now I'm back to it. It's a fairly lengthy meditation, lecture meditation, and it's going to, it's going to stretch us. So as long as we are, and when we think about all of these injustices, we're very much in the relative world of the Mahamaya, and we have to take care of it. It's cyclically inevitable, and as the great sage Shankara said, most mysterious is Maya, and forever. So cyclically and forever, we will have the multiplicity of Maya and all of the imperfections on the way to becoming archetypally more perfect. But meanwhile, we're going back into the non-relative world, from the world of relativity to the world of unity and oneness. I know it seems like a big jump, but that's what's up for today. And I'm going to ask you to bring out your, what can I call it? Your metaphysical thought power. your pure reason in the abstract mind, and if the intuition suffices, then the pure reason of the Buddhi. I'm going to ask you to bring that to this. And, you know, I said, I was talking to Michael beforehand, I said, well, if I'm struggling hard to know what I'm talking about here, so I don't expect instant comprehension from anybody, including myself. But there may be something that comes for you here about the underlying world, which is a world of non-division. So as usual, I'll be using the kind of language which I've kind of invented to deal with these matters. And I'll be taxing our abstract thought power. And that's what we have to do if during the next 2,000 years we're going to be successful in cultivating the sixth subdivision of the fifth root race, which is the cultivation of the abstract mind. So hang on, and good luck. I'm saying that to me too, you know, here. All right. So you know how I go. I give you kind of a lecture, but at the same time, I'm asking questions and going slowly enough to have a meditative attitude. And I'll start listing these, you know, as lecture meditations. It is my intention to finish this book somehow. And you know, I'm working on it. So we are working together in the sense of being one consciousness. And even more deeply, if we can fathom it, the sense of being one being. And I can assure you that that sense arises from the heart center, where the point of life is really found. So we ask ourselves, what does it mean to be dimensionless? You can think from the simple perspective, you know, well, there's no length, and there's no width, and there's no height. It's hard to conceive such a thing. And also, I might add, no duration or temporality. No time. Because time is a dimension also. In our usual way of considering things, but dimensionlessness. The universe we live in seems to have length, width, height, duration in time. But what if that's just an illusion? We're not used to thinking that way. Because our senses, whether they are external senses or higher correspondences to those senses tell us something very different. Everything has length and width and height and duration. But what if that's not really real? If we really want to look at what causes all that illusion, it is simply division. And in a way, division is the cause of the great illusion. Everything seems divided, and nothing really is. So, division is the cause. Well, something causes division, of course, but without division, there would be no great heresy of separateness. That's the big heresy, says the Tibetan. The big, big mistake we're all making. That we think there is separateness, distinction, and division where there is none. We really haven't, in a way, the slightest idea of what lies ahead in those states at a higher point of tension, because every one of them is like a surprise. So we are surprised by new levels of deeper reality. And if we just cogitate with our concrete mind, or just get stuck in the mind and do not activate the life of the heart, we will never change dimension, only to discover that changing dimension is an illusion in itself. Now, it's hard to speak of the unspeakable, the absolute, but okay. Blavatsky does it, and you got to do it, but it's kind of hopeless. But it is because the absolute can only apparently generate division. When it itself has none, i.e., no division, because of that all illusion, and now think clearly, it's because the absolute can only apparently generate division when it itself has no division, that all illusion, both supra-universal illusion and intra-universal illusion, is produced. I realize any one of these requires a lot of pondering. It's all coming from the absolute, and paradoxically, I mean, you got the mystery of all mysteries. How does the changeless produce change and still remain unchanged? I'm going to put that down. How does the great changelessness generate apparent change while yet remaining unchanged? So right away, you see the limitations of the mind. How can changelessness and change coexist? Yet that's what seems to be the case. Now remember, I'm calling on you to use your abstract mind, which depends on the building of the Antikarana, and it depends on the recognition of life within the heart. Changeless life within the heart. So this is the great mystery. How somethingness can appear from no thingness. I'm not just calling it nothingness, I'm calling it no thingness. With no thingness, yet remaining ever and exactly as it has been and will be forever. We can't solve that. Except it all boils down, finally, to what the Brahmins and the Vedantists and the Hindus have said. It's all Maya. And in a way, the universe never arose. And yet, it seems to have. Now, why does, now this is a big phrase, why does even supra-universal, beyond universe, articulated infinity arise? Why not just absoluteness only? Pure and utterly simple, forever, with nothing, no thing else. Then, therefore called the one without a second one. The one without a second. Why does that happen? Then, you know, we can say it's for this reason, it's for that reason. It's just all pitifully inadequate what we can say. I've said a lot of things, and so have others, but we recognize, like Galileo recognized, he says, God is incomprehensible. And that's coming from a very brilliant man. Well, in a way, absoluteness does abide, pure and utterly simple and indivisible forever. And there's just nothing else to deal with. That's it. There's nothing else. Non-otherness. pure, utterly simple, indivisible, forever, in its non-otherness. And yet, here's the universe. And here's that phrase again, difficult, but let's concentrate. And yet, articulated absolute infinity does arise cyclically forever. And that's the great seeming contradiction. The mind of man, the human being, can't get it. And I have another suggestion. I'll put it this way. Not only does the mind of man not get it, but the mind of any finite being, including the universal logos, also does not get it. The finite cannot comprehend the absolutely infinite. You can't dump an ocean in a tiny little glass. And yet you can. So be prepared to deal with contradictions every step of the way, at least contradictions as the mind conceives contradictions to be. I'm saying that the universal logos itself doesn't get it, nor any of the greatest beings at the top of universe, to use funny language. Top of the pyramid. So here's that phrase again. Within articulated absolute infinity, which is the articulated, that means all divided up, you know, the articulated reflection of the absolute supra-universal God, all possible divisions exist. Infinite divisions. Absolutely infinite divisions. Think about that. That's the reflection of the supra-universal, above the universe God. It's his articulated, it's articulated self-reflection. Every possible division exists. Nothing is impossible there, except that it doesn't exist. That's the one impossibility. So, you know, that's just going to take the mind and destroy it when you really start getting going and you think about it. Now, this articulated, infinitely subdivided, this is our phrase again, absolute supra-universal infinity is the ultimate Mahamaya, infinite Mahamaya, all in capital letters. The universe is a kind of Mahamaya, but this is the greatest of all Mahamayas. In other words, the actor, the transcendental God, and its reflection in infinite subdivisions is the ultimate Mahamaya. I'm talking now about Mahamaya, the great illusion, beyond any universe. So a lot of pondering, if you're of a mind to ponder these things. And the only thing that let's just say, supra universal God slash absolutely articulated infinity, the only thing it can do is to become less than itself. It, the absolute infinitude, which you and I are, just as we are the transcendental God, just as we are the absolute, the only thing we can do is to become less than ourselves. We can become finitudes, and the universe itself is the greatest finitude we're dealing with. Now here's the phrase: the unbounded, absolute infinitude cyclically becomes bounded finitudes, which are universes. And yet, that transcendental God ever remains itself. That articulated infinitude remains what it is, even though it becomes bounded cyclic universes. It remains ever itself, absolutely unbounded, infinitely articulated or subdivided absolute infinitude. So I said to myself, let's pause and scream a little here. Now, you may like or not like the language I'm using. I'm doing my best to make it make sense to me, and you'll have your own way. Or maybe this will speak to you a little bit. We are all absolute infinitude, all of us. And we are, in our limited universal Mahamayavic form, we are children, emanations of the absolute infinitude, which we more really are. Now, these are real mind-stretching thoughts, destroying the conventionalities of mind and its usual thought processes, if you're willing and it strikes you as maybe useful. The absolute deity, well, I remember, it is super-universal. The absolute super-universal deity, whose reflection is the absolutely unbounded, infinitely articulated, subdivided, absolute infinitude, is, in a way, and who knows how, a ray of the absolute. It's talked about in the Secret Doctrine. And every universe, now we're coming down a lot, and every universe is a finite ray of absolutely articulated, subdivided ray of the absolute supra-universal deity or absolute infinitude. They're both really the same. So in a way, you've got two rays going there. Two rays. Two rays. The first becomes the supra-universal deity or absolute articulated subdivided infinity, and the second ray becomes a universe. You know, and you could say, well, look, what has this got to do with me? Well, it has everything to do with the real you, and not too much to do with the mistaken you have thought you were. So back to dimensionality. The absolute infinity or infinitude has absolutely infinite dimensions or subdivisions. But does it really have any dimensions or subdivisions at all? Does it? Maybe. All these dimensions and articulations and subdivisions are really illusory. And maybe, I think so, absolutely infinite dimensionality is really dimensionless. And that's above the universe altogether. And what about any universe inside a universe? It's a finite thing. Does it have dimensions? It certainly seems to. Length, height, breadth, time, this vibration, that vibration, up, down, you know. Or does it have no dimensions at all? If it has no dimensions, okay, if a universe has no dimensions, then superimposition becomes necessary to understand. Everything on top of everything else being the same thing. One moment on top of every other moment. One place on top of another place on top of another place until there's only one place, and finally no place at all. Apparently, because apparently, you know, illusorily, because the universe has lots of emanations, lots of divisions, apparently then it has dimensions, apparently. But we must change apparency into reality. Which is something, you know, we do not easily do, even on a very low level, where we say, hey, you know, your thinking is really concrete-minded thinking, and it's not anywhere near to what's going on. Even down on that low level, it's really hard to change what is apparent to us into something that is more real. But, don't worry, we're getting near the end. But if space is based upon division, this space, that space, this space compared with some other space, if there's no division, there's no space. Depends on how you want to define space. If you want to define space as being, then okay, divisionless being. But normally, this space next to that space, next to that space. If space is based upon division, if time is based upon division, this moment, that moment, the next time, the time before, the time after, division, and if dimension is based upon division, this dimension is lower than this, is higher than that, point of tension here, point of tension lower, point of tension higher. You know, there's just no dimensions without division. And if actual, well, maybe I should call it real division. Well, no, actual is better. If actual division is really an illusion based upon the universal logos's, now listen, deliberately curtailed self-perception. That's what division is all about. It's an act of consciousness. If division is really an illusion based on the universal logos's choice to see less and less of itself, though multiply so, then where is any true dimensionality in universe. There's no this time, this length, that length, this height, that height, this width, that width, this point of tension, that point of tension. Where is true dimensionality in universe if it's all based on division, and division is the great illusion? Then what happens? All spaces will overlap because there is no extension in space. And this results in eternal spacelessness, even in the universe, any universe. All times will overlap, be superimposed. That's what I mean by overlap. Be superimposed, be superimposed, because there is no extension in time. That would be a dimension based on division. And this results in, or yields, an eternal now, even in the universe, even in any universe. And all dimensions will overlap because there are no real differences, because of essential in-universe indivisibility. So maybe a universe is essentially non-dimensional, or maybe one would just want to call it universal or unidimensional without any other dimension. In other words, it's just present. But I like non-dimensional better. So, in summary, what do we have here? No space, no time, no difference, no dimensionality. And this is essentially true, though not true in appearance. And forever, cyclically, we, the one, are going to be dealing with appearance. Shankara again, most mysterious is Maya and forever. So, what do? Be still. You may have to breathe, or maybe not, I don't know. Be still, don't move. Don't move your eyes. Try not even breathing for a while. But after a while, it's not practical. Some people can go into suspended animation. The breath just cuts off, but they live, but don't try it necessarily. Just let the breath subside and pay no attention to it. Don't move. Something is moving in you, yeah. The heart is beating and the breath is going on, but just let it subside to such a level. You don't want to stop your heart. You don't want to stop your breath. Some people can do it, but it's not important right now. And it all comes out to this understanding, be still and know that I usually write the figure 8. I am God. Or I am God. And realize somehow that all in-universe movement, all in-universe temporality, all in-universe spatiality, all in-universe dimensionality is illusory. It has to be dealt with, but it is illusory in the universal Mahamaya. So, stillness will reveal. So gather everything within the heart, which is the seat of life, which is the seat of being, and purge yourself, expunge all illusion of spatiality, temporality, dimensionality, and the cause of them all, division. And this is what it means really to infusive. And thus it is to produce, even in our tiny finite universe, an eternal now, an eternal non-spatiality, an eternal non-dimensionality, and eternal indivisibility, because it keeps on repeating itself. These in-universe states, eternally forever so. And become the universe in consciousness, become in consciousness the universe, which you have become. In fact, you are the universe, which is no invitation to a naive egotism. It's just a philosophical fact. Become the universe in consciousness, which none of us has achieved yet, which you have become in fact. And when this becoming of being can be achieved, then you are free to speculate about becoming in consciousness. Here's the phrase: the absolute infinitude, the articulated reflection of the absolute deity which you have ever been and will be cyclically. Sorry. And then the impossible, apparently impossible, for those who dwell even in supra-universal illusion. Then comes cyclically reabsorption into the absolute, which you have never left, and which forever you have always been, thus the contradiction, which you have ever and always been without the slightest variation or mutation. The unbounded, immutable principle, the very first fundamental of the secret doctrine. Oh. So friends, these are the metaphysics of it all. Now, there's a lot of little practical exercises one can do to bring what we really are right down into what we seem to be. And we just have to keep on practicing in our own limited state until it works all the time. And like in Hindu music, you know, and in the Sanskrit language, there's a bar. It just keeps going. In music, it's like a pedal tone. Doesn't stop. And out of it come all of these notes. The bar keeps going, and the notes change. And basically, the pedal tone of being just keeps going. It is what it is. And all the little beings and existences arise and disappear from it in great mutation. But the pedal tone does not change. Being does not change, though beings change. And if we can contain that, as Master Moria would say, contain it, this apparent contradiction of motionlessness and motion, of immutable being and mutable beings or existences, and so forth. We can think of many analogies. Then we have a fundamental experience about what's really going on or not going on. The universe is happening, or is it? So we have to be able to contain that great contradiction. Apparent contradiction. Oh my God. Now let's see what we've got. About 26 different statements here. Oh, some of them are the political thing.
A lot of comments.
Yeah, I see that. I didn't want to, interrupt the.
I can start where we basically left off after the political stuff.
Yeah, there's a smile there from Ann Parker. I'm smiling too. I told you if I could understand what I'm talking about, I'd be really happy. What do we got here? Okay. So here is, yeah, you and BL can share the reading, okay. And if anybody wants to talk, say something out loud, you can do that too.
Yeah, that would be great. Sometime in the future, more people talking. So I'll start with Jesse, which is dimensionless is being, and he corrected it, so I'll say it right. Dimensionless is being, which is omnipresence.
Dimensionlessness is what it is. Dimensionlessness, which is not written that way, but that's what it is being, which is omnipresent.
But he corrected it below with which and omniscient.
Okay, omniscient too, yes, and don't forget omnipotent. All those three factors, and omni means all, right? And ever, omni means, well, okay, look, dimensionlessness is a negation of an illusion. Being is the point within the triangle. And being radiates, what word can we use? Omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. It's just like Sanat Kumara is in the center of a triangle of the three Buddhas of activity. It's just like the Christ is in the center of a triangle consisting of the avatar of synthesis, the spirit of peace, and the Buddha. But this is a much higher thing than all that. This is immutable being from which arises what we call omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. Now, 1 second, please. And the fact is that dimensionlessness is a descriptor or quality of pure being. So being is dimensionless and expresses itself in the three omnis. But I want to say this: there's only one omnipresence, only one omniscience, and only one omnipotence with respect to the absolute infinitude, and that is the supra-universal deity. You cannot say these things about the absolute. You can't say anything really real about the absolute, but about its first arising, its first becoming, its first ray, its first otherness. You can say omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. And that can only be, those words can only have their final meaning in relation to the transcendental deity and its reflection, absolute articulated infinitude. These are words, now they are abstractions, but here's the thing. We can be just as sharp about abstractions, and many mathematicians are, as we can be about concretions. So that's why the third ray is called the acute energy of divine mental perception. It is sharp. And what the Annie Besant says, third ray, exactitude of thought. Fifth ray, exactitude in action with respect to tangible things. Let's go on.
Jesse continues with separatistness in all forms is delusion and the basis of all sin. And delusion, life is an energy soup. And then he goes on to say,
Okay,
our
hold on. Too much. Hold on. We've got to, which omniscient are limited, inadequate senses. Is that what followed that?
Yeah.
And
above that, the four statements.
the dimensionlessness is being, which, omniscient, and then comes our limited and inadequate senses. The quality of mind create all things that appear to be division or changed. And it's not just us, it's us as the universal logos. We create multiple self-perceptions, which are the many, many things that we and other emanations think they are actually perceiving. Well, in a way they are perceiving, and those perceptions are things. Okay? So boundaries, as Thomas says, yeah, go ahead, Michael, and then we'll, at a certain point, we'll switch to BL and we'll let her read that. Okay, go ahead.
She's not here right now. She's
She's not.
taking some medical things.
Okay. Well then, yeah, just go ahead.
So Thomas Olson, boundaries lie within conceptualization.
Yeah, I call it I call it self-perception, but it's the same thing, Boundaries lie within conceptualization. And where does it all start? Well, where does it all start? It starts above the universe. And then it continues with the universal logos self-conceptualizing or self-perceiving. And every one of those acts by which it sees less than its totality creates a boundary. Okay, go on.
Isness is, it is when we define that we separate.
Well, here's the thing. You've got to define. But of course, the word finitude is in define. So we have to use the mind in order to bring these extremely high perceptions into the world of the tiny unit man. We've got to do that so that the archetype can be manifested according to the intention of the universal logos, and beyond that, according to the intention of the one who became the finite universal logos. So the mind is necessary, and definition is the way you deal with something finite, and the universe is finite, and all of its parts and pieces are finite. But of course, the reality of it all is that infinitude is the truth, and finitude is illusion. Okay, let's see where we are here.
The next
Okay.
one, he references year 8 in this text, where he says, "Know thyself is the reason. The question which sparked creation was, who am I?"
Well, that's an interesting idea. And of course, the idea, you see, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can approach this, but the transcendental deity, trans-universal deity, knows exactly who it is. And in a way, I have to think this through, but so does the universal logos, who is finite. But the limited self-perceptions called emanations of the universal logos are plunged deeper and deeper into limitation. And they do not know who they are, what they are, just like we don't know we're the whole. Every once in a while we get, maybe a passing idea, and we have to work our way back into our original identity. And while we're doing that, we're working out a chosen aspect of absolute infinitude, which needs or has been chosen freely for demonstration as a universe or within a universe. Absolute infinitude has nothing to gain ever. In meaning, it has everything. The only thing it has to gain is the ability, apparently, not to be itself. It's a peculiar idea, I know. But it's the idea that the absolutely infinite can only do one thing, and that is to become finite. And to have the experience, the play, the dance, the Lila, whatever you want to call it, of having this drama we call a universe, which is already totally worked out in terms of what would happen in absolute infinitude, but the experiencer doesn't know it. We have a curtailed experiencer, and that is the God transcendent in self-reduction, in perceptual self-reduction. I'm going to put it down. God transcendent in perceptual self-reduction, i.e., a universal logos. You get to ask, well, why is all this going on? And it's a long way from the old man with the white beard saying you're good and you're bad. It just is the most profound secrets of anything that is or appears to be. All right, let's go on.
Next is a reference to point 10 in your document. Infinity is God's perception point. Completeness. Man is the journey the discovery of infinity.
Yeah, a self-forgetful man, because basically it's called nescience. It just means ignorance. The plunge into partiality is nescience or ignorance. And every emanation, not just man, every emanation, even the big ones, from which the galaxies and everything else came, they are the journey into nescience with the drama of rediscovering their infinite origin and their infinite nature. So let's just say there is the transcendental deity, and when it self-perceives, it perceives absolute infinity. So basically, God transcendent knows that it is absolutely infinite. But God, that God, if I can say a strange thing, plays the game of self-forgetfulness. It's the river Lethe all over again in Greek mythology. Down there on the very human level, we drink of the river Lethe and we forget everything so that we can play a new role. And I've often said, well, if you're playing Hamlet and you played Macbeth the night before, you better forget Macbeth's lines or you won't be able to play Hamlet. So there is some kind of wisdom in this forgetfulness as we play the game of nescience, returning to infinite realization. Ne-science, nescience, unknowing. Now, these are high things. You wonder how can we bring them down so that they help us live the myopic life which we have to live. But with practice, yeah. With practice, we can do that. And the masters and the higher beings and the still higher beings, they're doing that. They're doing that. Okay. Go on.
Jesse is next. Love is a creative energy which seems to produce articulated reflections in mind via its principle of aggregation.
So now here's the question, Jesse. Does love produce the articulated reflections in the mind, or does it amalgamate them, fuse them, unify them, and make them into one? That is a question. What really produces articulated articulations? Love puts the universe back together, okay? And it is the tendency towards diversified self-reduction, in my view anyway, all I can say, produces these articulated reflections of the one, and love in the heart, wherever, puts it all back together into unity, and unity leads to oneness. And there's an old saying here that DK deals with. He says, synthesis is, and unity has to be created. So love is the great, I would say, unifier and the restorer of many into a seamless unity, and eventually into the oneness that always is in synthesis. Now, these are just words We all have our take on it. And your take is as important as my take, you know, whatever works for you. That's the point. Okay, onward.
Next one is from Thomas, referencing point 14 in the document. It is the act of doing which negates it already being done. Yet, how can it be done with the doing? The answer lies in unity, ? This must be the purpose of creation, but the beginning of the movement back itself is the completion.
Okay, well, this is like a Zen koan, you know. This is to be pondered. Let's see what point 14 was, if I can get back to point 14. If it's still the same, because I changed some numbers, you know. Oh God, here it is. And the only thing it, super-universal God, the absolutely articulated infinity, can do is to become finitudes, because it already is absolute in its infinitude. It can become less than itself. The unbounded absolute infinitude cyclically becomes bounded finitudes, which are universes, yet it remains, let's say it remains ever itself, absolutely unbounded, infinitely articulated, subdivided, absolute infinitude. And I just thought, oh God, who wants to contemplate that? So it's time for a primal scream there. So and then you say, in regard to that, it is the act of doing which negates the it already being done. I hope I understand that. Yet, how can it be done with the doing? Well, it can be, I mean, you know, the doing is going on always in absolute infinitude. The it is the smallest chosen aspect which can be embodied in the universe. The answer lies in unity. Oh, wait a second. This must be the purpose of creation. What, unity is the purpose of creation? Or maybe I've not got it correct. But the beginning of the movement back is itself, is the completion. Well, what is completion? Maybe we can fasten on that for a minute. Completion, in fact, does not have to be achieved. It ever is. You are that pervasive universal logos. You are that. But the fragment that logos has become, or the many fragments, through perceptual self-reduction, has to realize in consciousness what it is. And when the entire system of emanations, or tiny, you know, reductions, perceptual self-reductions, return in full consciousness to absoluteness, then the way I see it anyway, that is the completion of any universe of which there have forever been an infinitude sequentially following each other, except if the dimension of temporality is an illusion. Universes have not followed each other. And in fact, it can be said not really to exist. In other words, what we've got is an infinitude of superimposed universes. I know I've deviated there a little bit from what you're proposing to say. What is unity? Because of, now let's get that word, that phrase straight. The universal logos's perceptual self-reduction, which means seeing less of itself than the whole. It's got umpteen million, trillion, billion, whatever, perceptual self-reductions. And they are a jumbled mess, especially when you get down to the really lower ones. Always underneath is their identity as the one flame, as the one universal being. But outwardly, they seem to be in disarray. Now it is love that puts them back together into a semblance of the archetype, which they are meant to approximate on every level lower than the archetype of the universe. Love creates that unity, because in the Mahamayavic world, it seems like the unity is gone. Look at our world. It's all conflict. But even on our lower level, the unifying factor of divine love is at work, creating that kind of relationship which reflects the perfect archetype and which will allow all of the beings who went forth as aspects of the one being to eventually return into the state of completion, which is total universal self-realization. Now, we all have different language here, Tom. So, like I say, and probably I'm aware that with language of the kind you're using, the kind I'm using here, you've got to kind of sit down for an hour with the person and really work it through, so we make sure we are really understanding each other as best we can. But I think you have, produced some pretty deep thought there, and it's just a question of what it means to you, what it means to me, or to any reader. Now, where are we?
Next, from Thomas again, 15. Question. So the second ray is illusion?
Look at yes and no. In terms of participation in a universe, it's considered a reality. It's an actuality, it's considered a reality. But what I'm talking about, anything that is the result of distinction or separation is fundamentally an illusion when compared to the absolute. Now, second ray, every great being, when it comes to a universe, they are what we're dealing with all the time. And we've got to Learn all about them within the realm of Mahamaya. Not really a question of saying, oh, well, that's just illusion. No, we have to treat illusion seriously, as if it was kind of a temporary reality that we have to bring into a certain condition of relationship. So in that way, it's not an illusion, but I'm talking about ultimates. If you divide anything from anything else, it is a violation of the boundless, immutable, unchanging principle, first fundamental of the secret doctrine. And if you want to get down to bedrock, so to speak, then the result of any kind of division, like there's 7 rays, they are divided from each other. Any division whatsoever. Now, this is a radical statement. Any division whatsoever is illusory. That doesn't really change our life in the universe. We've got to deal with everything. But if you want to go to the fundamental of it, division creates illusion. Okay.
Next, 18 reference. Another question, moving from who am I to who do I choose to be?
Well, I want to say you don't have a choice. Nobody has a choice. I know this again sounds radical. There's only one thing, no thing, which you have forever been and can't help but being. You have no choice. Thou art that. Tat tvam asi. That's it. That's what you are. And there's nothing else to choose from. Now, down in the Mahamaya, when dealing with choice, we have lots of choices regarding how we will bring through the archetypal relationship, which we more essentially are, into the conditioned world, which oftentimes resists the archetype. Like Master Moria said, all of Armageddon is the battle between Uranus and Saturn. Uranus is the archetype, Saturn is the conditioned world, and resists the imposition of the archetype. And so you have a lot of choices there. How you can strategically and in other ways make sure the archetype happens in the conditioned world. But when it comes to the absolute fundamental of it all, choice depends on two-ness, on division. There is no choice. Thou art that, and nothing else forever. That's the fundamental non-choice which exists. The first choice, as I see it anyway, is the choice of the supra-universal deity reflecting upon its reflection, absolutely articulated infinity, to select a finite portion of that infinitude to send forth as a universe. I think that's a completely free choice that the transcendental deity has. And of course, down here on our normal level, we have a lot of choices. But who you are is without question the only one thing. And since there's nothing else, where's the choice? Anyway, that's how I see it. But, you know, how each one of us sees it is, of course, the important thing. And I realize everybody's got their own language. You know, sometimes I occasionally talk to my wife and she says, well, of course. You know, I'm going through all this kind of third-rate reasoning about this stuff. And she said, well, yeah, that's obvious. Okay. We all have our own language. We have our own language. And we have to make it make sense to ourselves. Master DK says this: how much of the mountain of vision have you actually climbed for yourself, rather than just, you know, taking someone else's vision and repeating it and, you know, saying, well, I see it the way he said it. You got to do it yourself. And then your language will be impressive upon you. And then you'll be more successful. All of us will be, in conveying something of that realization to others. Next.
Next, it's Jesse. Rays are reflections of inherent qualities that express through absolute infinity.
They are, you know, there are infinite qualities expressing through absolute infinity, and whatever we call rays, well, you know, we might say that every tiny apparent subdivision in that absolute infinity is actually radiating itself and is therefore a ray. When it comes to the 7 rays, that's pretty much an intra-universal matter. And we begin right close to home with our chakra system and our principles and the 7 sacred planets and the 7 solar systems and the 7 stars of the Great Bear and probably 7 galaxies and 7 family of galaxies. All those septinates are right there in the universe. It just depends on what we want to call the participants in absolute infinitude. Are they rays? Do they radiate their quality? Are we talking about the 7 rays? So let's just say, in a way, you know, coming close to what you're saying, that every participant in absolute infinity radiates itself. And when the substance of a universe is chosen, it is bounded by the choice of the free choice of the absolute deity and sent forth as a ray to become a universe. Looks like something about this abstract thinking is affecting a lot of Jesse and Tom. Okay, go ahead.
Next one, in reference to 19, from Thomas. Perhaps the expansion of all creation is unity. Then the movement back to God, under who do I chose to be, creates dimension, culminating with unity. So it is the act of the desire to know God that perfects creation.
Well, I agree with that last part. It is the desire to know God, or the self-realization, or the universal logos, you know, occultists would call it that, that creates, that perfects creation. Whether it creates dimension, that's another issue. To me, how I see it is dimension is created from the top down through self-reductive emanation. Unity puts it all back together in an archetypal manner, which allows the reascent to oneness, from unity to oneness. But the whole thing is from chaos, apparently, through nescience or through ignorance, from chaos to unity to oneness. That is the sequence that makes itself apparent to me. When it comes to the expansion of all creation, do we have an expansion? We have an expansion of consciousness. And that expansion of consciousness helps to archetypalize the chaos that appears to us because of the universal logos's self-reductive emanative process. And so, you know, the poor little emanations stuck down there in non-relationship and a very bounded kind of consciousness, look around them and say, what is all this confusion? Well, gradually you get to know everybody else and everything else through love, and love archetypalizes, and you begin to rise into a unity, and the unity rises into synthesis, oneness, and we return, having played this game, having played this drama of somehow demonstrating the tiniest portion of the absolute infinitude, which became the universe. Now, look, I don't hold that what I'm saying is the only way to look at it. You've said one thing, I've said another thing, so I'm just responding. You presented how you see it. I'm presenting to you how I see it. And, you know, we have to, you know, define such terms as expansion of all creation. What does that really mean? And we might say that all kinds of skills and interactive abilities and relationships begin to occur down in this world of isolation, the sign Cancer. Let isolation be the rule, and yet the crowd exists. So that's mass consciousness. You know, we're just talking about the human being here. And from that isolation, how do you break that down? Well, you start interacting, and you wear away the hard shell of the crab until everything gets very sensitive. Everybody becomes part of each other in unity, and then everybody realizes that they are one, the universal logos itself eventually. Right now, it's enough to realize, oh, we are the planetary logos. Oh, we are the solar logos. I mean, you know, these different holes that we live in. But one day, called the day be with us, there will be the realization of the universal wholeness. Okay?
And next from Ann Parker, dimensionlessness is within all dimensions.
Within. Wait. Oh, yeah. Okay. Nice contradictory paragraph, which statement, which is true. The fundamental of all seeming dimensions is a state of pervasiveness and sameness, which we call dimensionlessness. So I find this to be true. And what we have to do is to somehow, with our heart, realize the dimensionlessness within all apparent dimensionality. Now, that's a huge metaphysical task, you know. I mean, look, let's realize a lot of us are just trying to control our astral body, okay? We're trying to learn how to think. We're trying to learn how to contact the soul. We're trying to learn how to build the antakarana, you know, a lot of specific tasks related to the science of occultism. That's just rudimentary, and we're trying to do that. But every once in a while, you can take time off for some really lofty thoughts, which, after all, will have a difference in how we see things. So we're granting ourselves that little bit of time to do that. Okay, go on. Thank you.
Next, from Jesse, truth. We are reflections or thought forms within absolute infinity. All things are as well.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, you know, absolute infinity is the articulated reflection of the image of the transcendental God. We are that transcendental God. You know, in the old days, they really burn you at the stake for that one. And we are all of the infinite articulations or divisions or subdivisions when, so to speak, the transcendental God looks in the mirror. It's in, you know, when Francis is doing these Secret Teaching of All the Ages, that big Manly Hall book, there's a picture of the macrosoposis something. He's looking in the water and he sees himself, okay? He's not going to fall in like Narcissus, who became enamored of his own self-image, but he's kind of looking at his own reflection. And here's the thing. When the transcendental God, who is seamless, looks at his reflection, it may see seamlessness, or it may also see infinite articulation. So the seamless sees the totally seamed, I don't know what the word would be, articulated, subdivided. We can get that idea in our mind. We'll know where absolute infinitude came from. It is the reflection, the articulated reflection of the supra-universal transcendental deity. And all of this is infinitely less than the absolute. Okay, so is this Tom again?
Yep. 22 in reference to 22. The act of desire for union with God both perfects and negates creation.
Well, that's interesting, and I think it's well stated, because, you know, creation itself is a very temporary thing. Don't forget, creation is a great becoming. We're stuck in what we've become. But union with God and union as God, that's the thing. Not just with something else, but as a thing, identifying as the thing. And then all those little parts and pieces, those little self-reductions we call emanations, they are negated and they are withdrawn. back into a seamless, universal oneness. So I think that carries a good point.
Next from Jesse, all these reflections, which all things
Are.
things are, help absolute infinity play and understand itself. Absolute infinity is infinitively created.
Well, to me, it's complete. So like I say, there's nothing that's not found in it. Everything is found as it, in it. It doesn't need really any help. I mean, let's just say that the completeness of God transcendent and the completeness of absolute infinity, otherwise it wouldn't be called absolute. It means it's complete. Let's just say that there is one understander of itself. The supra-universal deity understands itself as a seamless supra-universal being or as an absolutely infinitely articulated being. It already and forever understands, sees in its completeness what it is. There is no process there. Process is for a universe. Every possibility, except the possibility that it isn't, is worked out in absolute infinitude forever. It can't go any further. It has forever done the infinite all and is the infinite all. So we can't think of it like we would think of a limited being who's progressing, being helped, etc. No need for that. At least that's the way I see it. And it's the transcendental deity that in a way is infinitely creative in a special sense, producing self-reductions of itself, which have to be danced, dramatized, played out. It's somehow a creative act. The universe is the object of a creative act of the absolute deity. I mean, we're up there, we're up there pretty high when we're thinking about these things. But progress does not exist. Now, I lost a friend on that one once. Yeah, in the universe, at various temporal stages of Mahamaya, progress exists. Not in absolute infinitude. No progress. Not in the transcendental deity. No progress. It is forever complete because it is absolute. Yes, exactly that. Absolute infinity, because it is absolute, is all-encompassing, forever, and does not evolve. Only a finite being can evolve within a larger context. And there is no larger context for absolute infinitude. It is the one and only context, with no other context whatsoever. No evolution in the conventional sense. That's a mind bender, and it'll have to be pondered. Well, friends, looks like
We have one last one, and it's from Thomas.
About illusion?
Yep. So the illusion begins with the second ray, which makes possible the return. God created, said it is good. Then creation came to life from the end backwards, which created division. It is a coming to know and a shedding the unreal, though an exploration of the unreal, a paradox.
So through the exploration of the inward, I think he means through. Or maybe means though, I'm not sure. Look,
Through.
the second ray, no. Okay, I got to just say how I see it here. No ray produces illusion. The rays themselves are emanations of the greatest non-illusion in universe. But now we got to look at it this way. Every emanation of which the rays are illusions. Every emanation. And how are they produced? By voluntary self-subdivision of the universal logos in relation to its wholeness. By voluntary subdivision of the universal logos in relation to its wholeness. The great logos apparently divides itself through the will to see less of itself multiply than to see all of itself. If it sees all of itself, there's no illusion. If it starts subdividing its own nature, emanations are produced, and every one of them, including the rays, is an illusion. Now, along the way, whatever the second ray stands for, helps to put all those divisions back together. At the outer bounds of finite perception, the second ray gets into the act and says, love, desire, unity, let's get it all back together and let's be real sensitive to the archetype from which it came, so that when we put it back together, it reflects the archetype. And then, just like a chord of music, which is really in tune, it flies. If you've got a chord that sounds awful and people are singing out of tune, it stays very earthbound. If you've got a chord of music that is perfect in harmony, there's an elevation that automatically takes place. So the second ray does play its role in the return by putting all the many apparent little pieces back together through love and desire, and helping them rise from a state of unity into a state of oneness. So God, which God said it is good? Well, you know, let's just hope it's our planetary God. We can handle that. But there's lots of gods out there, and maybe, who knows, we can take this as far up as the universal logos, but realistically, all that story about creation is really about what our planetary logos did, and that's way, way down on the totem pole here, you know. It's way down compared to the hugeness of the one and only logos. Then creation came to life. Well, creation, you see, look, creation always starts from above. In occultism, you always start from above. Work your way down, and then work your way back. and you say from the end backwards, well, let's say creation came to life. The minute there's emanation, Tom, there is creation. It's the universal logos becoming his universe. So we don't have to say nothing's happening until we're down there and now creation's coming to life. No, creation comes to life from the minute involution starts and extends itself into the farther worlds. That is creation too. And then comes the return, or maybe what you're saying here, from the end backwards. Division was created before creation. All right, now that's one of those thoughts. Let me get back down here. I've got to get back down here. Division started from self-reduced perceptions of the universal logos. We didn't have to wait till we get down here for their division made down here. And that's how I see it. And then I agree with you here, shedding the unreal, though or through an exploration of the unreal. Now, of course, one is capitalized and the other is not. A paradox. We explore all these apparently unreal things, and we drop them on the way of, here's what I call it, emanative return. Emanative return. And all, you and I and everybody right now that's doing this, we are in the process of emanative return. So I say we've got to kind of sit down, let's just say, look, the first ray is oneness. The second ray is unity. And, we understand it how we understand it. The rays themselves are emanations, all of them. And we're not even talking about the 7 rays in the usual sense now. We're talking about the extreme universal prototypes of the 7 rays, and who knows what they are. DK only takes it as far as the 7 stars of the Great Bear. That's how far he takes it, and only that far. But there's prototypes up there at the top of the pyramid. Okay? Okay. All right, friends. Well, we're a little bit over the mark. And, between Jesse and Tom, they were kind of triggered to think into these things. And a lot of us may say, oh, my God, what are we doing here? But we're discovering the self is what we're doing. And this is all part of the techniques of self-realization. That's what we're doing. So I'm not even going to ask if there's anything else because, well, thank you. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everybody who sits silently appalled. I'm appalled too, but not so silent. So we're going to close with the great invocation. Tomorrow morning we have glamour, and I'm going to focus on that kind of glamour which is so power hungry that it denies people their will and their rights. So that'll be at 8 o'clock in the morning. 6 o'clock really, 8 o'clock my time. I appreciate Michael and BL that you've helped us out here. And look, don't forget, conference is coming up, and you can, be in your own kitchen and attend the conference. So, and I'm going to provide you now with a book I've been working on and with Walter, and it's going to be an elaborate test for your rays. It's like a big workbook, and take you a long time to go through it, but every one of you can have a copy, version 1, then when there's a version 2 and version 3, it'll be easy to get it to you with the updating, and you can think of yourself in a larger context. Alrighty. Great invocation. Yeah, here we go. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Oh. 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 Thank you, everybody. And tomorrow on Glamour, we'll do our best to help people get their votes back and not stolen through power-hungry materialism in our relativistic world. And here's Michael's giving us conference information, going to 7ray.org, and you'll see our pre-conference work. The program is not yet up, but the people who are presenting, most of them are up, and maybe what they're going to be talking about. And pre-conference, starts first and lasts a while with the ceremonial workshop, concentrating a lot on the solar angels, and the astrological workshop, and then the ray workshop, and finally we get into the main conference. So hope to see you there, and it's still a month away, but we have lots coming up, and including the equinox, the ingress of the sun into areas of meditation that Tuya will be presenting as a broadcast. And all of this is in the weekly schedule. So it's intense time now, and we're outputting quite a bit, and hope you can take advantage of it. So look, lots of love, many blessings from all of us on the communications group. And we'll see you when we see you, and maybe some of you tomorrow morning here in Europe. I know that in the US it's kind of hard to wake up at those hours, but here we are. Anyway, this will be posted before long. BL will get it up there, and it'll be posted on Makara also. Makara, and on YouTube, Harold Moses will get it up on YouTube. We'll be seeing you. All the best, and onward we go. Bye for now.